I guess we'll introduce. You want to introduce yourself for the audience, for people that may or may not know you?
Yeah. My name is Max Steele. I live in Portland, Oregon. I'm a writer down here. I have a Substack, and professionally, I'm a personal trainer, small business owner. And I guess I'm a former radical leftist activist in Portland, Oregon. Now a very normal, boring activist in Portland, Oregon. Yeah,
Your Substack is called Recalibrate Portland, right?
recalibrate Portland. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I appreciate the focus on local politics, as depressing as it is. It's at least
sure.
within the wheelhouse of things that you can effectuate, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's very much the point. I feel like I'm in a city adrift and obsessed with things that they have no control over globally, nationally, whatever. And I'm sitting here, come to this school board meeting with us. It's really important.
Yeah. I found out about you through Substack, through finding out about your Substack, and you and I have had, I guess, a similar trajectory. Not exactly, but we both have been involved in leftist radical politics in some measure. For those that I don't talk about this that often, but for those that don't know, I used to be part of the John Brown Gun Club. My politics have always been libertarian, but being libertarian is very lonely. It's very isolating. And if you, even though I might have, what I've gotten around to is whenever I have common cause with the activists, I'm more than happy to work with them to advance something. And so with the John Brown Gun Club, I've always appreciated gun rights. I've always advocated for them, but the avenues for pursuing that are very limited outside of the right wing sphere. So I fucking hate the NRA. I have no respect for the organization whatsoever. And I've said this before, but the way they are very selective about their outrage in terms of who deserves protection from the government when it comes for your guns. The one that probably pissed me off the most was they didn't say shit after Philando Castile was killed by a police
Mhm.
officer. That was, and over time they just became like a blatant pro-Trump pack. Um, I reluctantly had their NRA membership card because a gun range required it, and I would get the letters, and the letters would be just so deranged. They would say shit like, help us protect America from like the radical left and help Trump's agenda. And I'm like, I didn't sign up for this shit.
Yeah.
So the basis, the motivation when for me joining the John Brown Gun Club is we were aligned on not on like the radical leftist politics, but it was more I don't like fascism, I don't like racists. I'm happy, and I was more than happy to further the topic of gun rights to a much more liberal or leftist audience because I feel like that was a blind spot in their end. Um, so, like, I got along great with the group. I was with them up until 2018. I've talked about like why I left the organization then. Probably don't need to rehash it. But what about you? Like, what was your history?
Yeah. So I moved out to Portland in 2005. So I was pretty young. I was 19. Uh, yeah, 19 at the time. Um, and it was a little isolating out here. I moved out here because a lot of my politics were pretty leftist. And this was kind of, I come from Arkansas, right? I'm a hillbilly from Arkansas at the end of the day. And I needed to move to a city that still kind of had my small town blue collar lefty vibes. So I chose Portland for a lot of obvious reasons. I could sort of afford it. But it was really isolating and lonely at first. And I got really into the metal scene out here because I've always been a little bit of a metalhead. And there were some guys that were pushing back on the presence of National Socialist black metal. And I thought, great.
Is that still a thing?
I, you, Sure, a little bit, a little. It's mostly like edgelord kids that are like, oh, we're gonna throw a skull and crossbones and some lightning S's in our
Okay.
poster, right? But they were coming at it more from a stance of if we do anti-fascist work in the metal community, that's gonna like let the anti-fascists in the Pacific Northwest know we mean business. We're a safe space. You don't have to denigrate metal as a music genre. Like we're not tolerant to that sort of stuff. And I thought, great, like I like that. I have for reasons of being Jewish and also just hating Nazis. Aside from hating Nazis, I don't care for them. So I worked with that group, hooked up with Rose City Antifa through them. Never like dealt with Rose City Antifa directly. This was sort of like through an intermediary. I'd go to their actions. We'd do, direct actions. And through that work,
What do
I
you mean
got.
by direct action?
Oh, so like an example, there was a group of Holocaust deniers who were throwing essentially like a small convention at a little hotel just at the edge of town. So we rolled up on that, all masked up, blocked up, dropped banners, harassed the staff probably more than was necessary at the hotel.
Hmm.
And eventually a sheriff's deputy showed up and helped us get the group bounced from the venue.
How?
I guess he was like, he talked to the manager and he was like, I need you to walk into this room with me and see some of the stuff that these guys are like. I know you guys are free speech, but do you want this attached to your hotel? The manager had, I guess, not really cared what the group was about, walked in with the sheriff's deputy, saw some of the brochures and thought, oh, yeah, no, corporate's probably going to fire me if they find out that this group was hosting a thing.
Okay.
So they shut it down. It was like little stuff like that, right? Very little street brawling.
If I was a Holocaust denier, Portland, Oregon is not the first place I would pick to do a
No,
convention.
no.
So, what do you think was behind that?
I mean, I think that that's always been a thing for the far right in the Pacific Northwest. They know that if you go to Portland, you're going to get a fight.
Yeah, it's the
Like,
way you're seen, right?
yeah.
Otherwise, you don't
So
exist. Like, no one gives a fuck about what you do, where you
yeah.
are.
And like as a result of this action, like there was a photo of me on Stormfront. And you can't like you can't totally identify me in the photo, but at that time, as young as I was super proud that I was featured on Stormfront because I was like, all right, Nazis are hunting for me. This is amazing. That was my headspace.
Yeah.
And it was
So
because of that.
that was one distinction I had. So when I joined the right before I joined the John Brown Gun Club, I explicitly told them I do not like Antifa. I do not like Antifa tactics. Let's say I don't like blocking up. I don't like the anonymity. The problem that I had with it was that it felt performative and um, for lack of a better word, cowardly.
Yeah.
So like everything that I did with the John Brown Gun Club, my face was shown. There was no hiding from it. It was from the start. All of us were just part of an above board organization.
Yeah.
We didn't engage in any illegal activities. We didn't start fucking like street skirmishes with people over if we identified them as like the fash because they had an American flag or some shit like that. It was more about having a presence at protests with the idea that you don't want people intimidated.
Yeah.
Um, like some of the actions that we would do was there was a protest at outside of a Nazi tattoo shop. And
Mhm.
this is like full on Nazis, like they had
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
8 and like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they like the Nazi owners were like, mad that there were protests, but they couldn't do shit when we were there because, we had long guns and armor, body armor. So it was like everyone was kind of chill and cool.
Yeah.
So that was a distinction. There was some overlap with some members of John Brown and Antifa, but it was always no one was ever like discussing that in like our comm platform, and no one asked. So it was like kind of like a known small secret. But that was definitely like a tension for me because I'm like I don't want anything to do with these people.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with these tactics specifically.
I can see
What's your
that.
view on that?
No, no, no. Yeah, I think so. The actions, ironically, like I got into it to join the actions, and doing the actions is what kind of showed me, yeah, wait, what is this? There would be some American Indian movement guys that would show up to help out. And similar to John Brown Gun Club, they wouldn't block up. They'd be wearing American Indian movement t-shirts, faces out,
Hmm.
and because their faces were out, I mean, they were protesting, they were holding signs, they weren't up to illegal stuff. They were just letting it be known, like, we're not comfortable with this stuff in our town. I found myself more drawn to those guys. And then the guy who led one of the actions I was on, who did attack a Nazi photographer, but still, he attacked a photographer, smashed his camera, and then fled before the police arrived. The whole group did their whole "we didn't see nothing" thing.
Hmm.
It turns out that guy got bounced out of town like 3 weeks later because he didn't just like punching Nazis; he also liked punching his girlfriends. Like, it wasn't a good caliber of, like, it wasn't a high caliber of people that I was associating with. And I started kind of
Yeah.
picking up on, like, wait. She's one of the people who doxes Nazis for us, but she also doxes all of her ex-boyfriends. Wait, hold on. You start noticing that the tactics aren't selective. The
Yeah.
tactic, like, they enjoy doing the smashing, they enjoy doing the punching more than they have a problem with Nazis. Uh, so
Yeah,
I
that's something I wrote about where I talk about I'm not a I'm not a pacifist, but it's not I don't seek violence out, uh, and if you are going to engage in violence, which sometimes it is necessary to do so, I outline several principles to follow, and one of them is just humility, because humans it's really easy to whip humans up into a frenzy, and they'll
yeah.
attack damn near anything, and a lot as my in my work as a public defender, I also see a lot of excuse making from clients. Like especially the domestic abusers, where they'll say, "Oh, she provoked me," or she like was egging me on or taunting me, and I'm like, "Yeah, you ripped this chunk out of her scalp. Like that's that's on you. That's your
Yeah.
responsibility." Um, but I saw strains of that. From I never lived in Portland, but seeing kind of being aware of the scene and seeing who was victimized by just people who wanted to get their violence out, but they needed a rubric that made it okay to do
Hmm.
so, to just beat the shit out of someone.
Yeah.
That was really concerning when there's no, to say the least, when there's no pushback
Yeah.
on. It's like, hey, are you like actually doing this for a good reason, or are you just want to satisfy a craving?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agreed. I observed a lot of that behavior. And I think maybe the thing that pushed me over the edge, well, at least pushed me away from the Antifa stuff. So you were up here during the like the grand jury resistors. Oh, we got a cat. This was the three. Wonderful.
I closed my
This
door.
yeah. This was the three. It was like two people from Seattle, one person from Portland, who was a young woman named Leah. They were arrested by the FBI. They were held without charge, like leading up to a grand jury indictment. It was a big, like, free Leah was the thing here in Portland. So she's this
Mhm.
kind of young, dreadlocked goth girl, deeply invested in all the anti-fascist stuff. Uh, and she was held up at SeaTac essentially indefinitely, is what it seemed like at the time. And everybody was, we're going to free Leah. She's our anti fascist sister. We love her. And they held her in solitary for a couple of days. And she decided she wanted to participate in the grand jury. She didn't know anything. So she just kind of came forward and said, yeah, I was here at this time at this place. And I don't know what got smashed where, but that's all I know.
Mhm.
Uh,
No, I
and
wasn't
the
aware of all of this.
Yeah, so when it happened, the free Leah stuff died immediately because she's a snitch. No one got arrested off of anything that she said, to my knowledge. No one had any penalties put on them for anything that she said, but she didn't keep her mouth shut on the stand for this grand jury because she wanted to go home because she was like a 19-year-old girl. Uh,
Yeah.
they ran her out of town. I mean, it was clear you will never physically be safe in this city again. And I think that was the first of those very clear moments where I was like, ooh, I'm not just getting like a little sour stomach about this. You people suck. Like that is not an acceptable. You just ran a young woman. I mean, she moved back to like Tennessee or wherever, changed her name, and just has laid low for the last I I
Yeah.
guess decade.
I think the maximum that the feds can hold you for refusing to participate in a grand jury is something like 18 months. So it's
It's
lengthy.
it's lengthy. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I knew some people that were willing to withstand that on principle, and I can
Sure.
understand, I guess, like when it's valid.
Yeah,
But there is, I mean, the way you describe blocking up, like the whole point is to have plausible deniability.
yeah,
You have anonymity. Uh, the whole point is to engage in violence and illegal
yeah,
activity and try to get away with it. Like
yeah.
that's what people do.
And that's, I mean, a lot of it was kind of LARPing as organized crime, right? These were people who just, they desperately wanted to be the Weather Underground. They didn't have any Weather Underground plans. They didn't have the capacity to be the Weather Underground, but they like really, really wanted to be them. And I was sitting here thinking, I just didn't want like Nazis in my city. I don't want to be the Weather Underground. So I signed up with a medic collective instead. I got recruited
Uh-huh.
into the Rosehip Medic Collective. So I could just focus on doing what I thought was going to be like really helpful stuff. Just
And
show up to.
how is that different? The Meta Collective.
So mostly I went to the normal protests. I went to the sort of free speech protests, the like anniversary protest for the March on Washington. I didn't block up and like I wasn't part of the collective that went and did that stuff anymore. I was getting old ladies a bottle of water. And that to me felt more like service to my community. I led the medic trainings. So I was empowering other people with knowledge. And I kind of just distanced myself from the start trouble shit. One of the things we taught in the trainings I participated in was spread calm, like don't start shit. This is about free speech. This is, we're not here to train you how to be militant. Um,
So was there like a last straw for you?
No, the last straw for me was my cancellation. That was kind of. I mean, I don't truly know why this individual hated the Rosehip Medic Collective. That's like politics at a level that I was never. I don't know what that grudge was, but there was
No,
an
I mean,
outside.
I want to talk
Oh
about
yeah.
that, but like for
Cool.
moving to the Rose Hip Collective, for like stopping
Oh,
with
that
the
bounced
block
me to
up.
Rosehip. I
Yeah.
think it probably was the treatment of people like Leah. I think it was, there was like a young man that got called out who seemed like a scumbag in town, but there was graffiti all over town being spread by Antifa that was like, his name was like Ben or something. It was like, where's Ben? Like all spray painted on all the walls because they were hunting for this dude. And I was like, I like, like the guy was accused of touching somebody's ass. It's not good, but like we're hunting for him. It was just too violent and too unhinged. I think it was just I think the straw was probably Leah. That
It's it's interesting to me. I mean, clearly there's parallels to organized crime and gang culture and gang, I guess, expectations, like no snitching.
yeah,
But it's the stakes are so much are so different,
yeah,
and the retribution is so different. Like I represent gang members that have killed people, but you don't see the same. You see kind of like the same. I want to call it just performative. There's a level of anger and visibility that tries to match up for the lack of action, for lack of a better term.
yeah. That's the thing. It was like the scale. I mean, they wanted to act like they were in a gang, but like, what have you guys really? I mean, you spray painted some ATMs, right? Like this is not, nobody's catching like bodies. This isn't like this is not occurring. But they
Yeah, and
act
I don't want to
like
make that the metric, but
no, but they treated it with that level of gravity, right? Where
yeah,
it's like if you say anything to anybody, we could all end up in prison for life. And I'm like, on what charge? Like on what charge would any of us end up in? The worst arrest I saw, the guy was arrested. They sentenced him to weekend jail. Like when you're
yeah.
getting sentenced to, which is fine, but like we're not talking heavy hitters. This is weekend jail.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, there was I mean, there was always some. It didn't come up that much with the John Brown Gun Club, but because we carried guns, so there was by definition a level of seriousness that
Sure.
accompanied it. We're not gonna fucking start shit when you have like an AK-47 strapped onto you.
Yeah.
Uh, but when the topic did come up from because I always expressed severe disdain about it to my fellow comrades. When I see people engage in street scuffles, I just said, what exactly is the end goal? Like, what do you advance? Like, what are you working towards? How do you know that you've reached it? Like, how do you know you've won? Because it just turns into very vague, like, oh, we just don't want to make fascists welcome here. But
Yeah.
there's no like measuring. There's no measurable, goal to achieve. Did you ever discuss that with people within the
Yeah.
scene?
No, I mean, yes. And I think that was what got me out of the anti-fascist organizing was that when I started, it did seem like there was a goal. Like we were shutting down a Holocaust denier convention. Stated goal: we don't want this convention to happen within we want them to know within the bounds of Portland, not allowed. That
Hmm.
is a solid goal to me. When we were trying to dox like a local police officer that was an alleged neo-Nazi, right? If he's really a neo-Nazi, that he's a public employee, maybe people deserve to know that. That's a goal. But the goal is like the information is dispersed, goal completed. And when it
Hmm.
started getting to that muddier, like, no, man, anti-civ, like, I don't, what do you, it just, it felt like there wasn't a good fight for them to have. And so they kind of went looking for fights. And that's, yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be the first to point out that, I mean, these groups were much more active in far left cities where
Yeah.
there's just like there's not even Trump supporters. You'd have to like really search hard to find them. And of course, like Trump supporters got the memo and they would start driving their pickup trucks like 3 hours away to show up to Portland. Because, it became like street theater. The Proud Boys and shit like fed off of each other.
Yeah.
No one gave a shit about them until there was this conflict between them.
Yep. Yeah. There was I know this was a little bit predated your, because your sort of straw was the treatment of Andy No,
Hmm.
but there was a year, 2 years before that, there was a young man that he was hit in the back of the head with a trench club because they
Yeah,
falsely,
I've seen it.
yeah, they
Yeah, I
falsely identified
saw.
him as and it was, I mean, it wasn't even that he was
Is this the
conservative and
Bernie supporter or
yeah, it
something?
was like the Bernie supporter.
Yeah,
That one haunted me. That was a
yeah.
weird moment where I thought, and I sent texts and messages around, and I was like, "Whoa, are we doing anything about this? Are we doing anything to like? Is this guy getting taken care of, or is there an apology?" And people were like, "Shut up about it, man. It just that's Fox News clickbait bullshit, man." I thought you hit a guy with a no, he seemed like a nice enough guy. I mean, not that you should hit people with trench clubs, period. But come on, um,
Yeah, like
there was that lack of giving a shit.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was very concerning, and I mean that was the reason I had no positive sentiments towards Antifa. And for those that don't know, like I resigned from the John Brown Gun Club because Andy No was at a protest that we were participating in, and this was before he got famous. But enough people knew that he was, a right wing provocateur or
mm-hmm.
whatever that means. And he didn't do anything. He was just standing there filming. He's just like the short Asian dude. And it was just a bunch of Seattle people like making a line, just a bunch of white people saying like refugees are welcome here, and they're trying to push out like the gay Asian dude out of the scene. That I thought that was really fucking dumb. But the thing that really upset me was when members of John Brown had their guns out, and they also stopped him from like crossing the sidewalk. And I
Yeah,
wasn't around when it happened, but as soon as I found out, I said, "This is fucked up. Like he didn't do anything. Like if he was
yeah,
violent, we can meet violence with violence. That's perfectly okay. But this guy didn't do anything. He was just filming, and there was kind of like some. It wasn't a negative reception to what I said. Not necessarily, not entirely. There were people willing to acknowledge, like, yeah, that was fucked up because that was something I appreciated about the group. There was a seriousness to it, but no one wanted to be outspoken and say anything in public, which is what I was asking for. I wanted them to say, this was a mistake. Here's what happened. Here's why it's not going to happen again. There was no traction for what I was asking, and after a few days, it like kept me up at night. I'm like, I can't be part of this group.
Yeah.
And even though at that point I was a very visible and very active member, and so I resigned right then and there, and people were kind of shocked about that. But I told them like I just can't endorse this. The If I don't speak up or if I go along with this, then the opinion or there's a tacit approval that is attached to me, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be okay with that. Um, yeah. So there was I've seen like kind of like similar hedging from some members where they would say, "Oh, we were worried that he was doxing people," and I'm like, "What the like? That's so stupid." Do you
Okay.
are you even convinced by that, or are you just saying something? Because like, if you really want to dox people, you just you put on a Bernie T-shirt and you just film everyone. No one cares like if you're filming in a public street.
Yeah.
So there was some of those I guess like similar patterns.
Yeah. I think the thing that something you touched on, I always forget the name of this like accord. It was like the Philly Accord, but it came out of one of the Republican National Convention protests somewhere in the middle north or northeast. And I always forget the city it's named after, but there was this like decision in radical organizing circles that we don't publicly criticize anyone else doing the good work. We internally we can have these conversations, although in reality they never did.
Yeah, of
But
course.
but again, to this point, to you hit somebody with a trench club and it's the wrong
So
guy, we don't condemn that. You
so
falsely
that was an
accuse somebody,
official like I guess
like
communication.
I mean, like official, yes. Like it had it was a named concept. It did the rounds on Tumblr, and it was like that. Remember after Philadelphia or whatever the hell this random socialist convention, we've decided our for solidarity purposes, we are one large movement in solidarity, and we don't publicly criticize the comrades. And that to me, I thought, well, no, because you're right, it is now it is a tacit approval. I'm the organization I'm part of is not going to criticize another organization for doing something that was destructive and harmful and incorrect. And you see this in the 2020 and even the 2016 protests when they'd fuck up and they'd smash up a black business. And then they wouldn't even apologize. They would just be like, well, I guess we will try not to do that again. But they wouldn't
For the record,
publicly.
smashing up any business is bad, but
No, I know. But I mean,
according
like,
to their
they'd hit
standards,
the wrong
yeah,
business, you
according to
know,
their rules.
according to their rules. That's where, yes, smashing up businesses is wrong. I agree with that as well. But even by their own stupid rules, they smashed up the Bison Coffee House, right? Because Loretta had a coffee with a cop. She's an indigenous woman. It's the only indigenous owned coffee shop in Portland, and they smashed the windows out, probably because they didn't bother to Google who she was. There was never an acknowledgement that that was way too far because we don't criticize comrades' actions, myriad of strategies, blah, blah, blah.
I'm trying to
That,
think, like, what is the most charitable defense of that stance? Because it just leads you to really dark places
yeah,
if you don't have an error correction mechanism to get you into the right path.
I guess the steel manning of the argument is that if you allow Andy No to run a story in the post millennial criticizing a sister group's actions, and then you have to release a press release, and then you have to have like a sit down and a meeting with them, it allows the Andy No's of the world to tie you up in like accountability processes for all time. And so if you just never take accountability for any of that shit, then Andy can't catch you out, and you won't have to be in accountability processes forever.
It's a very Trumpian move.
Yeah, but like that's the best steel man I have for that argument. It was gross to me. And I mean, you add to the fact that I was out very, very loud anti-communist, and this was my discomfort with Antifa, because Antifa has its roots in the communist, like, sort of Marxist-Leninist theory that there's really only two sides to the battle. There's fascism and socialism. And
Mhm.
nah. There's a lot of sides and a lot of things going on.
Mhm.
And I
So,
am of
what were your
well,
politics like? Maybe you were gonna talk about that at the time. Was it how out? Did you feel comfortable being out against communism within that scene?
yes, and no one liked it. They did not like it at all. I guess I was a little cowardly. I would do the like, yeah, sure, for sure, for sure. There's a difference between socialism and communism, and like we're gonna draw a line here. And in reality, all of my socialist friends were literally just Marxist Leninists. Um, and I was cowardly in some ways of like, if I was on a date and the girl was really cute and we went back to her place and her roommates had a giant poster of Mao Zedong on the wall, what I should have done is be like, nope, fuck that, and leave, because I would have done that if it was Goebbels. But she's really cute. Like,
I
I
get
was
it.
cowardly in those ways. But but I would be like, wow, you ever invite any Chinese Americans over here? Because I don't think that's going to play that well. Like, uh,
The reaction I mean I went to college in at George Mason University and like went to their econ department, so I was a libertarian for a long time, and I was always I hung out with the anarchists on campus because they spoke my language.
yeah,
They
yeah,
had a banner that said government is violence. I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, it is.
sure.
And there was a lot that I could that I was and still do appreciate about anarchist thought. And anarchism gives you kind of like a wedge entry into radical politics,
Hmm.
because it can't there's like a myriad of different uh, divisions of anarchism, anarcho-syndicalism, anarcho-communism, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that the core thesis is compelling and resonates with a lot of people, which is just hierarchy can be bad, authority is bad. There's a lot of things that a lot of lessons that you can draw from that. The thing that I still have some appreciation for even like the lefty anarchist authors. The thing that I never ever understood was how anyone could still call themselves a communist. Over all
Yeah.
of these years, it was so just cringy, and I just thought like why are you just like really ignorant about history? Like what, I thought we already had this debate, and that's I just didn't I couldn't get it.
If I'm trying to guess, it's the edge lord tendency. Like, it
Mhm.
is not cool anymore. I thankfully, to mess around, or well, I guess Kanye's brought it back a little bit, but it has not been cool for a while to mess around with the fashy stuff, even in an ironic way. That has been not cool for a very long time. But people still got to edge. They got to edge lord, right? They got to be the. So this is where you become like a Maoist. And yeah, again, how are you sitting
That's like
there?
the worst.
Yes, you're literally, you didn't even pick one of the slightly cuddlier ones. This is there's a group, and I wrote about them. It's like the American Party for Liberty. Their logo is this scary ass looking like golden Sauron fist surrounded in a cog. They look like a Fallout villain. And their official position is that the only thing that went wrong with the Soviet Union was Gorbachev. That's where the Soviet Union went wrong. And you just look at them and go, how are you an organization? How is this real? How is this real? How are there hundreds of you? I mean, not thousands, but how are there
Yeah,
hundreds of you?
you know
That's
who's
ins.
better? The people that say true communism has never been
Oh
tried.
yes.
Like
Oh yes.
those are diluted, but I would say they're
Yeah.
above the Maoists because
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, Mao, really? Mao Zedong is like your fucking hero? Like what world are
Yes.
we living in?
I.
And the one thing I could appreciate about the John Brown comrades is I don't know if we had any communists. I think all of them were anarchists, and we all laughed at the Maoists that
Yeah.
because they were very loud in protests. they tried to be very visible and try to sneak under the radar by just having their like no exclamation point sign about
Hmm.
like against fascism, against Trump, etc. It Yeah, I never understood like how communism still was cool or like had any cachet, just after just decades and decades of just authoritarianism.
That's it, right? Yeah.
The
Y-
thing that always gets to me, and I still don't know how they were able to pull this off, was the fact that they built the Berlin Wall to keep people inside. Like that, to me, that it should be the death knell for any ideology. That you have to build a prison to keep people from escaping your utopian heaven. I, it, it's just baffling to me.
mhm.
So yeah, like communism fucking sucks.
Yeah, yeah. And it
I wish
seems
that was a more of a popular position within radical politics, but I guess just I don't I'm confused by it. What were you gonna
maybe
say?
also it's just people, like, people hate their dad, and their dad probably hates communism, and they're like, well, my dad hates communism. It's probably pretty based. It's not. Sometimes your dad probably also hates being mauled to death by wolverines. It doesn't make being mauled to death by wolverines good. Like, sometimes people you don't like dislike things that they should dislike. Yeah. No, yeah, but yeah, for me, I like, there wasn't. Back to your earlier question of like the straw that broke the camel's back. I think it was just a the totality of the thing. I don't think Occupy helped me. I think Occupy, like the takeover of what is it, Lonsdale Park or whatever, uh
In New
for
York.
yeah. Well, and then the takeover here of the park, it was like 39 days. I mean, they destroyed that park here. I mean, it was a gross and disgusting place after they left. I heard the
Mhm.
horror stories of just like the sexual assaults that took place, and I thought, what did we do? Like, what are we building here? Are we capable of building things? So yeah, the Occupy years definitely didn't help. And then
That was
we
around 2011, right?
yeah. It was 2011. No, that was, yeah, 2011 was when
Yeah.
when they finally brought the police in and vacated the camp here.
That was an
And
interesting time because the most common critique against like the Occupy Wall Street movement is like, what do you want? What are you asking for? And like, there was no coherent answer. It was, which I can understand in some circumstances. It was just kind of a vent.
yeah,
But then after a while, it's like I don't know what's happening here. You're just taking over public property, and
yeah,
there's no end goal.
yeah, yeah. And then that's it. It's like you're taking over our parks. I mean, like take over a U.S. bank tower or something. I mean, like what? I mean, you won't succeed at that. But
Yeah,
so
I know.
that's why you destroyed our park. But like, come on. Yeah, that was wild, and I think that got me to the next couple of years. I mean, I just kept my head down. Again, we did medic trainings. I liked that. I like teaching people things. I like coaching people through stuff. I liked some of the marching around and the handing out the electrolyte packets and helping the guy who fell and bumped his knee. Like, that was
Mhm.
fun. I enjoyed that part of it. And then 2015 eventually arrived, and I had to go. I had to go. Not necessarily because it was about me, but just because my little radical group had to be taken down, and I was the easiest target because I was this argumentative guy. I hated communism. I'd picked a lot of fights over the years. Yeah.
Was there, in your mind, was there a tension between hating communism and being part of radical lefty politics?
Yes, here for sure, for sure. It
No,
made you.
in your mind,
Oh,
like, did
oh, in
it?
my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I battled with it. I think there was a, like, the received wisdom was like, anarchism's good, but not anarcho-capitalism, not any anarchism that gets anywhere close to the middle of the line of the compass. You got to be super far from that. And I would sort of notice, like, actually, when you get pretty far from that center line, stuff starts to get really scary and horrible. That center line seems kind of okay a lot of the time, weirdly. And I think that was, I had a social network, and you have friends and you get laid, and you don't think about it too much, that
Yeah.
yes, some of your friends probably have odious beliefs, like really, really odious beliefs. But talk about those beliefs with them. Or if
Well, it
they
does
come
seem
up,
like
it's a
more of
fight.
like a fashion statement. And I mean, I've
Yeah,
already written about this. Yeah, like not cosplaying, but showcasing, I guess, the more radical elements of my beliefs definitely helped me get laid. Like, there's no
yeah,
doubt about that.
yeah,
I don't know. I guess I need to do some more research to see how widespread of an effect that is. But people adopt beliefs for a variety of reasons, like
yep,
fashionable. If they're fashionable, then that helps propagate them. It's
yeah,
just something that you don that you don't really think about too much.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
So
yeah. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was so enmeshed in that world, and we had all the little anarchist cafes, and I had friends or I dated people that worked at the anarchist cafes, and you would notice like their ordering system is terrible because they're badly organized. Like their special of the day is vegan French toast, and they are out of the tofu to make the vegan French toast, and they've been open for an hour, and that's the special of the day, and it's like all this like silly, almost Portlandia crap,
Yeah.
but yeah, like all the time. And it does sort of like it compounds, and I start to realize these people are incapable of building anything. Like they can destroy things, they can critique things, they can sit around and smoke weed and have conversations, but they have not successfully constructed a thing that I can think of. Like I can't name something they've successfully built that they didn't set on fire later because of internal politics and circular firing squad nonsense.
Yeah. So when it comes to your Jewish identity, how strongly held was it as you were growing up
It was
throughout?
very very weakly held. I was not raised like in a Jewish household, like period. I was raised under we have Jewish ancestry, like we come from Jews. That's fine, but I was a teenager before I was like, yeah, I should get more invest. I mean, like I was passionate about learning about Jewish culture, but I was passionate about it at a distance from me. It's like, oh, I should learn about this because this is what I come from, but like we are not
Hmm.
practicing Jews. And then I moved out to Portland, and one of the first friends I made out here was Jewish, and she like kind of goaded me into coming to more events. And then I started a very serious relationship with a Jewish woman who was very committed to the culture. And so that's when I started like, okay, I'm going to relearn all this stuff, and I'm going to start celebrating the holidays, and I'm going to make this a part of my life. And that was, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 years. I mean, it's been a while, like a little while ago, but yeah,
What was
teens
your
of years.
motivation at that time?
I think my motivation at that time is that I had somebody who was willing to hold my hand through it, and I didn't feel like so awkward and uncomfortable that my Hebrew pronunciation was shit, and I didn't know all the right ways in which to like when do I bend the knees for the bow at the like. I just felt like really clumsy and awkward going to services before that, and I had somebody being like, okay,
But
I'm
what
gonna.
was your motivation behind being, I guess, open to trying that? Like,
Oh,
were you trying to reconnect with something?
yes.
What was
Oh,
going
for
on?
sure. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I had like a really um bad relationship with spirituality as a kid because I grew up in the Bible Belt, and the people that I knew were, I mean, I knew plenty of wonderful people, but I had like a lot of examples of how sort of stifling and negative religion can be. And I think I just had like a chunk of me missing. And I was always kind of looking for like, surely there's going to be a thing that I find myself compatible with. Um, and then when I got out here, started getting more into going to Jewish events and thought, oh, it's this. Like, this is the thing. I love this. This is the thing. But also, I feel really embarrassed about this because I do not know how to do this correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had I mean, I guess a parallel or related experience when I moved to the United States. I was 10 years old, and my parents never pushed religion on me. You know, I was a kid, but as soon as I came to the U.S. and feeling super isolated, I thought I wanted to see my religion as like an anchor.
Yeah.
and meaning Islam.
Yeah.
And so I doubled down on being a Muslim and like took it very, very seriously as a teenager. I would pray 5 times a day. I wouldn't masturbate for months. I would like not look at women. We'd read the Quran, and I wanted to see it as a, I guess like a uh, I wanted to find solace or peace through that religion. And in reality, what I ended up feeling was fatalism, where I couldn't
Mm.
wait to die because everything good was promised after I died. So it's like, why the fuck am I waiting for? Like, let's get this show on the road. So I broke away from it when I was 20 or so, like when I was in college, and haven't looked back from being an atheist since then. I can understand, I guess, like the need to reconnect on some level, and I mean, reconnecting with Judaism is sounds more fun than doubling down on Islam.
That's yeah. I mean, yeah. That's the other thing I got out of it is like I think it made me a much less like self-centered person because I was so agnostic. I mean, for like a period of time when I was young, I was militantly atheist. But for most of my like later, like very young adult life, I was just super agnostic. I knew I had the tie to this connection or this culture, but I didn't, it was rusty and not particularly well exercised. And the more and more I started going to Jewish events and like getting reconnected, the more I started thinking about community and other people in a really passionate way that really filled me up as a like, oh, like I really love these other people like a lot. And this reminds me that that is my default sort of attitude toward the world. Like I'm a little grumpy. I can be kind of hard to get along with. I'm really, really critical, but I'm like that sort of stereotype of the guy who is disappointed in other people because I really expect a lot out of them because I think they're amazing. I think I really, really love people, which is why when we elect DSA members to our city council, I'm like, no, we're smarter than this. What are we doing? What are you guys doing? You're so smart sometimes. Um, I, like, and so yeah, yeah, for me, yes, it wasn't like there's no focus on the afterlife. There's no focus on the reward later. It is all like keep this shit alive and keep the gears turning. Like keep these people safe and
So right
happy.
now, like your approach to it, is it still based off of seeking spirituality, or is it primarily for community,
No, I
or
think it's
both?
I mean I think it was community. I think it was community for a while. And then last year I had a very this is like really cheesy to talk about and it is outside of how I normally speak. I had a very very religious experience last year that was a bit transformative and now it has this whole other level that has transcended community. Now it is also a personal spiritual journey. And it absolutely like upended my perceptions of how I view the cosmos. It was wild.
How
Um,
much do you want to talk about that? I'm not going to push you on it.
no, I mean it was just one of those weird little moments where you're feeling kind of lost and frustrated, and you know like a little bit of a movie moment where you're like, oh, is that a sign? Should I lean into that? And since that moment, every time over the last year and a half, 2 years that I have felt really scared to do a thing, especially when it's speaking out about anti-Semitism, especially when it's like something political, or I'm like, shit, this could lose me some clients. I don't know if I want to do this. I lean into it and I am fine. Like as if I am protected. It's wild. The more that I do the thing that I am scared of, the more things seem to be going right in my life. It's very weird. And I am not historically a person who thinks in that pattern. Uh, but yeah, I don't know.
I guess in your earlier years, when you were seeking out Jewish identity, what role did Israel play within Jewish identity? Because that's something
Yeah.
I'm still not familiar with. You know, I grew up Muslim, and
Yeah.
I just don't know how. Uh, I didn't realize how inexorably tied Jewish
Yeah.
identity is to Israel until very recently. To give you an example, I was in Venice, Italy, just like a few weeks ago, and there's 300 Jews that live there, and like I was just walking around and around the Jewish ghetto, and they saw me looking at a flyer with my wife, and they're like, "Oh, come join us for Passover,
Yeah.
Passover dinner." And we had a great time talking to them. And one of the Jews that I guess one of the rabbis he was talking about, he said something about how our nation is surrounded by enemies, and I'm like,
Mm.
we're in Italy, like you're not surrounded by enemies, but I understood like the turn of phrase. It
Hmm.
was almost like he was always in Israel. It's like that's kind of the ever present location that you're
Hmm.
in. And I noticed that as I spend more time with Jews, I notice, I guess, that those kind of very nuanced and slight turns of phrases that showcase just how prominent of a role Israel plays within Jewish religion and Jewish culture, and I guess just mythology. And that's not something that I understood before. I didn't
Yeah.
realize how strong that connection was.
Yeah. I think when I was a kid, I understood that connection as like in a really simplistic, childish way, just like inextricable, right? Like I'm Yisrael. Like I understood that part of it. But when I started to reconnect with my Jewish identity, it was in Portland, Oregon, and I was hanging out with like leftists. So there was no Israel in the conversation, right? I could push back when I thought somebody was being anti Semitic in their kind of decolonialist kind of language, but for the most part, how do I want to put this? Uh, it's like how you think like you can go hunting. You could take up like the hobby of hunting, but you're in your head. You're not thinking there is a moment where you are going to kill an animal. You've just like decoupled it, and I think
Mhm.
like I had decoupled. I was like, that is a conversation maybe I don't have to have. Maybe I don't have to think about that often. And so I plowed forward for. I only made it like a year and a half, and I went to a Passover Seder at Reed College, our hyper lefty, super expensive, bougie private university. And it was a radical Passover. It was lefty all the way. They were doing a radical Haggadah. And somebody had invited an Israeli girl. And I just don't think they told her. I think they just thought she would be like them. And they spent that whole Seder shitting on Israel, like every little random pot shot that they could take. And I watched this girl like crumple in on herself, and she ended up leaving in tears. And I kind of flipped out and had like a very loud conversation. And that was a moment where I thought, oh, okay, you're not going to get away from this. This is going to be a conversation that has to come up because these kids
What
have
was
figured out.
the motivation behind shitting? Like, why was that even brought up?
They were trying to take all of the, sort of like in Jerusalem next year out of the Haggadah. And so every little bit of like releasing us from bondage and also the bondage of all peoples in the world. It was taking a day that is supposed to be about being Jewish. And there's this like sad guilt where you just go, but that doesn't mean other people don't matter. And you go, yeah, of course it doesn't. That's insane. There's something really, this I think is where you get the accusations of like the self-loathing Jews in the radical scene.
Hmm.
And I don't know, that not a language I use very often, but I get it because there is this deeply apologetic footing where they're like, you can't make it through a traditional Haggadah without talking about Israel, the land of
What's a
Israel.
Haggadah?
The Haggadah is the little booklet that you're like, it's your program. That was about it's the program for the Seder. And you can do, I mean, there's like endless ones, there's comedy ones, there's radical ones, there's zines. And the one that we were using was a zine. It was just like a radical queer, like decolonialized zine. Uh, and yeah, you have to go to some length to modify what are the four questions? Like, well, we got to modify the four questions. Hold on, we got to
What are
explain
the
that the
four
shape.
questions?
So the four questions is
Don't
basically the
forget,
kid.
I'm ignorant
Okay, okay.
about all this.
So the questions are basically at a certain point in the meal, you've got your Seder plate. So you've got your shank bone and you've got your bitter herbs and all the things that make up the Seder plate. At one point, the children are supposed to ask, like, what is the shank bone? What is it doing here? What about these bitter herbs? And so these are the questions. And then, of course, like the people who are reading from the book are the bitter herbs are to remind us, et cetera, et cetera. And it's, just the call and response rehearsal stuff. But Israel is all through that stuff, right? It's all through that stuff. It's
What's an
impossible.
example?
I mean, like the eventual, like the freeing of us from bondage, like where do we go? Like we go to Israel, right? Like this is like there's a lot of uh there's just a lot of the eventual goal, the theme is like ending up home where we belong. And so all people should be freed from bondage and all people should end up in the homes where they belong. But if you are anti-Israel, that presents a snag for you because you're like, oh, how do we write around this? Because at a certain point, like one of the last things you say in the whole night is this time next year in Jerusalem. Like that's so we gotta
Yeah.
maybe we do the thing where Jerusalem is a state of mind and we carry Jerusalem with us everywhere that we go. That's a version. And that's where you start going like, okay, so I'm not going to be able to
Yeah.
avoid this.
Hey, Martin Greenwald, good to see you here. Uh, the I'm kind of confused by, it feels like as I realize more and more just how embedded the idea of Israel is, at least like within Jewish religious, I don't know what to call it, belief and
Yeah.
ideology. Um, like, why, if you're uncomfortable with Israel, like, why even try? Like, why try? Like, it feels like you're trying to turn a really, really, really heavy cruise ship that's been plowing along in a single direction for a long time. So what's the point of trying to reform something so unreformable?
I think it's, I mean, if I try to steel man that position, it is that it is the belief that our allegiance to Zionism, or even just the very idea that like the ancestral home of the Jewish people is Israel, we need to eventually return there, etc. Or that's gonna be the end of us. That's gonna kill us off. What we need to do is we need to figure out a way to justify the idea that the diaspora is good actually, if you look at when God sends us into the desert, that's a sort of a diaspora. We've always been in a type of a diaspora. Yisrael is just in our hearts. Jerusalem is in our hearts. It's what the land is where we make it, as a way of trying to like save the Jewish people from, I don't know, the harder conversation, the bigger struggle, which is no, a core pillar of our culture and our faith is that we belong there, like right there specifically.
Hmm.
And we can be there with other people, but we need to be there. And that's like the
So
best I've
I
got. Yeah.
yeah, I know you're trying to steelman it. I just never. There was Freddie De Boer had an essay called "This Is Zion," where he argues that America should be considered Zion. It's you're probably familiar with
Yep.
the argument, and I recently wrote about it where I said I don't disagree with him. The problem is he doesn't grapple with the context of the formation of Israel. They were even after the liberation of the concentration camps. People were still living in the concentration camps because no one wanted uh, displaced persons, which were primarily Jews. There were a lot of people that were considered displaced, meaning Nazi collaborators, from like Poland or other places, that Poland didn't want them back for obvious reasons. So there would be other countries that'd be like, yeah, you can come to us, like we don't mind. But the Jews were the last ones to find a home. Even the United States had severe immigration restrictions
Yeah.
on Jews up until May, or no, it was June 1948, 1 month after the
Yeah.
founding of Israel. So it's like I get it now. Like Jews have a really good quality of life in America. Well, up until recently, uh,
It's still, it's
I get,
globally, it's pretty good, but yeah.
yeah, I get that argument, but it just comes across as naive. I don't know if that's the right word. It doesn't begin to grapple with what the circumstances were at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I guess we're in agreement on that.
I think we are. I mean, I don't see a way around it. This is, I don't, this is somewhat related, but I've been having a little bit of a sparring match with some Jewish friends over the like, I don't love necessarily getting involved in the indigeneity argument because I'm not that excited about indigeneity arguments anywhere in the
Mhm.
world. I'm just not, I don't find them that compelling. Um,
Yeah, I reject
yeah,
it completely.
I
It's of no interest to me.
because the difference between native and indigenous is were you the first humans here? And then how do you prove it? And like, you can be native, Japanese, I said this in my piece, but Japanese people are native to Japan. They are not
Yep.
indigenous to Japan. But that doesn't mean that Japan has less, like, one, the 25,000 remaining existing Ainu are not going to rise up and wipe out the Japanese. The Japanese are native to Japan. It's fine. Japan is a valid country. I don't like, we're not having that debate because it's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
so this is
And
where,
there's also the problem of definition. Like, how do you define what an ethnicity is? It is. I hate
yeah,
harping on this point, but it's an arbitrary designation.
yeah,
It's not like you can take a microscope and find a Jewish gene. Even like the genetic test, they use reference populations where
yeah,
they'll survey random people in Armenia in the 1950s, and they'll just declare like this is what Armenians are because we decided that this our sample is representative.
yeah,
There, I think that's a point that's a little difficult to communicate. I need to find better ways to communicate that. But once you start asking people, like, imagine I'm an alien. How would you convince me that someone is of a particular ethnicity? And once you start going through that exercise, you realize that a lot of it is just kind of assumed. It's
yeah.
kind of floating in the ether. There's no specific way to nail it down. It's just like, you see it, you know it when you see it, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is like a fun party trick that I did, but I went onto one of these websites that like GED Match like has a essentially a Palestinian DNA test as part of it. If you have access to your genetic code, like if you've ever used Ancestry or 23andMe, you can download it, you can submit this through and test to see if you're Palestinian, which to your point, the only thing that it shows is that you have genetics that match a sample from the Levant, right? Like, it's like, yes,
Yeah.
people who have genetics like you are heavily overrepresented in the Levant and have been for a long time. So you'll be shocked to learn that when I took the Palestinian test, I'm Palestinian as hell. Like, I'm super Palestinian. Like, of course I am. Because my ancestors are from that region, whatever they called themselves. Yeah,
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 I mean, that's what I suspected. I haven't looked into it too much, but I suspect that when you do a genetic test of what we consider Palestinians and what we would consider Jews, you'd find, especially Mizrahi Jews that come from the Middle East, you'll find a significant amount of overlap, and that would be a fact that I believe the Israeli right wing would not be happy about because they want the distinction of
yeah,
being genetically chosen people, but it just turns so meaningless. Like, and
yeah,
it's so obvious from a historical standpoint. You have the destruction of the Second Temple, the beginning of the diaspora. Some people stayed behind. Some people converted. Some people were forced to assimilate. And then you just forget about the what transpired since then.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to, I guess, address. Just the arbitrariness of it all.
Yeah. Yeah. And so at the end of the day, like my defense among, especially amongst the radicals, my defense of Israel is that Israel exists. It
Yeah.
exists. It's a legal nation. It has borders. Like that's my defense. My defense is that it does exist. Omaha exists. Like
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing. Like these places exist. I mean, which is not to say that things can't change and you can't treaties and purchases and whatever. But for the most part, in the modern era, if you want a country to not exist anymore, you better go to war with that country and you better win. And I really
Yeah.
hope that you don't, because it's a terrible thing to do. But like,
Yeah, when people ask me like, does Israel have the right to exist? My response is, I don't know what that means. Like countries don't have rights, and it just turns into incoherence.
yeah,
Like if a country doesn't have the right to exist, what are you going to do about it?
yeah,
It's the same thing you're saying. I mean, it exists. Like that's the
yeah.
reality. That's what you deal with.
Yeah, I don't want us to take over Greenland because Greenland already exists. We just leave Greenland the hell alone. Like I don't like Green. Was it always Greenland? No, but it is right now, and like I don't see a strong reason to fix that. Um, fix,
So
yeah.
when you were in like lefty radical circles, how often did Israel come up?
No, I mean not often. Like, when things would pop off over there, right? When things would pop off over there, so what came up in 2012, right? It came up again in 2020, but it really was this was tricky. It did feel like there were more caterings to, like, when I say my feelings, like Zionist feelings. Like it felt like there was this knowledge that, like, guys, even if we don't like Israel, like, come on, man, don't go so hard on Israel because you are really going to alienate the Jewish members of this community. That did feel like a stated thing. The
Hmm.
Jews could make fun of
Around
Israel.
what time?
2012,
Okay.
in through in into like, yeah, 2012 was my specific year of memory of like Jews could criticize Israel and you could criticize wars, like you could criticize actions, but I did feel like non-Jews were pretty cagey about like the taking the full stance of like, well, maybe it shouldn't exist. Um, so I really was shocked, like post October 7th, that it's gone, like it flipped. It was not the fringiest of the fringe saying,
Mhm.
no more, we're done. I had friends say to me, hey man, Max, I know you're not going to want to hear this, but I just, based on what's going on over there right now, dude, I think we're at this point where we got to start having the conversation. And I was like, what is the conversation? And the conversation is like whether they got to go or not. That's the conversation. Like I'm not having that conversation with you.
I don't know what level it. When you were on Emily's live, I said you were plagiarizing my origin story. It's the same thing. It's just uh, it's really easy to just feel insane because I when I hear something like that, my instinct is to take it seriously because I want to treat people like adults. But
Sure.
but then I'm like, you're saying some insane shit. Like, are
Yeah.
you or do you actually mean it, or is this just kind of like a bit? Are we doing improv theater without you
Yeah.
telling me? Like, I don't understand. When you
Yeah.
ask people, I just want to ask people, like, tell me like step by step how you see this actually happening.
Yeah.
Like, are we having like a cruise ship pull up to Tel Aviv and people are just getting on the boat? Like, what is going? Where are they going to
Yeah.
go? Like, what is happening?
Yeah. I know. I mean, it's a little bit like the thing you said earlier, but you can't really believe people are still supporting communism. It's like, the North Korean people, not people from North Korea, but like the North Korean stands. You'll meet them and go
Hmm.
like, I don't know if you're memeing. Like, I don't know
Hmm.
what you can't be a North Korea stan. And they go, yeah. And America needs to end their genocide against the North Koreans, Max. Are what? Okay. I don't. What? And I don't know how to talk to you anymore. I don't know that we can have conversations about anything of serious import because what?
So, did you identify as a Zionist like while you were in radical politics?
No, I don't think that I would have used that word, right? I think I would have tried to find a way around it. I think I would have said like, no, like I definitely think Israel should exist, but like that doesn't make me like a Zionist. Like Zionists are the people that are like, only Israel should exist. Like I think I did totally buy into that. And it was kind of only after like in 2015, 2016, kind of getting bounced out of those communities. And like some of the ugliness in 2020, I saw some real like anti-Israel ugliness here in Portland in 2020 that kind of started nudging me back toward like, oh, okay, maybe I'm like trying to appease people that I don't need to appease because there's not going to be an appeasing of them. Um, but
Yeah.
I think I went through a similar thing with like feminism, right? There was like a minute there where people were like, "No, we're post-feminist now. We're having isn't feminism like?" And now I'm like, "Yeah, sure, I'm a feminist. That's fine. Like I'm not trying to make somebody happy who's going to get offended by that. That's fine. Like, yeah,
Yeah, for me, as much as I mean, growing up, I hung out with the anarchists in college. I listened to punk rock. I never considered myself a far leftist, but I always was within the sphere of, I guess, anti-authoritarianism of some kind. Uh, Israel just never came up that much in my mind. I just knew that it was vaguely bad, but for reasons I couldn't articulate. Um,
yeah,
as much of a geography nerd as I am, uh, whenever you look at a map and you see Israel, there's always the West Bank and Gaza, kind of like
yeah,
with dashed lines on it. And for for a long time, I wasn't even sure like that Israel was, I don't know, like even part of the UN or
sure,
recognized by more than a handful of countries. I'm just talking about like my level of
yeah,
ignorance, where it's just not something that I thought about.
yeah,
And the it was, we're all like kind of trying to grapple with it. Uh, Out of all the issues, out of all the political issues that I've touched upon, commented on, written about, yelled at people over, this one still like really like keeps me up at night because it's just so it's so deranged, and I try to keep myself calibrated
yeah,
in the sense of I've been wrong before. I've been wrong about issues, and I try to keep my mind open about that. And so I try to rely on these um objective anchors that I can hold on to. And one of them is always questioning what can change my mind about something.
yeah,
What evidence would I need to see? What is acknowledging a weakness in my argument? If I'm able to articulate all that, I feel like I'm on safe ground. And it's none of those tools have come like anywhere near. I wouldn't be able to, in terms of like my interlocutors on the so-called other side. It, I couldn't even get them to acknowledge, like, yes, that's a good idea for me to have, because it's just a complete opposite. So I've talked about many times just like how many friends I've lost, and it's like good fucking riddance. Like I'm not. Oh hey, Katie. uh, I'm not sad that those people are gone from my
yeah,
life. If this is the line that's gonna if this is too much for them to bear.
yeah. Yeah, I think, the joke that I kind of tell is that there's actually like great arguments on both sides, but only one side is making them. Like I it's it's wild when I have to like offer up somebody like, okay, here is a criticism that you could present me in this debate that would be sane. And we could
Yes.
talk about this all day. This would be so sane for you to argue from this perspective. But the
I,
thing you just said is provably untrue. And I can't, I want to help you, like, help me help you not destroy this friendship right now because you're saying crazy shit. Like, And I will still
Yeah,
be your
I
friend,
felt
but oh,
exactly
you're
the
already
same
blocking me.
way.
Yep. Yeah.
I felt exactly the same way when I don't know if you saw my conversation with Robert from like earlier this year. I had a 3 hour conversation with a staunch anti-Zionist, and I recommend watching it if you have some
Yeah.
spare brain cells. There were so many exchanges where he just outright lied about something or was refused to be transparent
Yeah.
about a certain thing. Like, for example, he talked about Israel invading Lebanon in 1982, and he just said, "Yeah, they just wanted to invade."
Yeah.
And he definitely knows more than I do, but I know enough to say, "Wait a minute, what? Wait, what was anything happening in southern Lebanon that might wear it merit like a mention or something?" And he just said no, nothing of significance. Like, and it's that level of I don't even know what to call it. It's not even
Yeah.
denialism.
No, it's
It's
just,
he's trying to, I guess, not he's trying to not mention facts are inconvenient to his side, but when he does it so transparently, I just think, what purpose does this serve? Like, this is anti-persuasive. It doesn't convince anyone. It just showcases how much you're reliant on evasiveness.
there's something that it reminds me of a little bit, which is I'll bring back a little bit of like the cancel culture, like Andy No stuff. Like they will say something about a person that is factually, easily provably not true, right? And then when you point out, like, hey, this guy might be like an asshole, but that, like, he didn't drive a bus through a McDonald's. Like that didn't happen. And their reply will be something insane like, yeah, I mean, okay, maybe it like didn't specifically happen that way, but like, guys, he fucking sucks, right? He goes, no, that's not. Well, how are we? Yeah. So this is, I mean, it's in a way, it's this bizarre, like, what is it? Is it like poetic truth? It's like this thing is wrong. So kind of anything that I say about it is essentially right because ultimately the conclusion is that this thing that happened should not have happened.
Are you
Like,
familiar with the decoupling, high and low decoupling?
no.
So in the rationalist sphere, calling someone a low decoupler is just like the most cutting insult that you can levy against someone. It's like calling them a retard or something.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Uh, Decoupling is just the ability to separate ideas. So, I mean, an example would be something like if I said African slaves had a higher life expectancy than Africans during like the 19th century.
yeah,
I can prove that that's a true statement, but you can see like you can anticipate the reaction you'd get from people. They'd get
yeah,
kind of like uncomfortable. They start sweating, be like, "What do you mean? Why are you saying that?" And they'd sort of kind of preemptively try to refute an argument that you never made
yeah,
that they think they need to proactively protect against. And you know, it seems to be maybe an intelligence factor, perhaps, or I don't know, like when you're not necessarily emotionally invested, when you can think clear-headed about a
yeah,
certain issue, that lets you decouple. I think for people like Andy No, there's so many people that just outright hate him, and if you
yeah,
say anything good about him, even if it's true. They think that they suspect that you're trying to fight against a narrative that's already entrenched in their mind. So they react from, I guess, like a primal position.
yeah. Well, okay, and I like that because that is it. It's I like I don't like, dude. I don't want to argue with you about Andy. No, he sucks. I am positive that that is true. So like, so what? I got like a fact about him incorrect. Like I don't. I'm just agree with me, damn it. And that it feels like the Israel thing so often, which is like, oh, we gotta this massacre. And I was like, well, okay, the massacre that you're referring to that happened 25 years ago was actually a battle. It was a pretty consensual battle. It was like 23 killed on one side, 25 killed on the other. It was, but okay. And they go, okay, fine. That doesn't matter.
Mhm.
They're frustrated because you're making them have to work, and they were not maybe prepared, not capable of working at this, maybe, but maybe just they were hoping that you'd just be on their damn side, and they're not interested in. I want to hold this opinion. I want to hold it really
Yeah.
passionately. I want you to agree with me. Don't don't make me convince you. I don't have the facts on hand, but I'm right. I know that I'm right.
So one of my professors, Robin Hanson, he talks a lot about how I think one of his phrases is like politics is not about policy. Something to the idea is that a lot of people hold beliefs not for the direct application of that belief, but it's essentially fashion statement.
Okay.
That's a tired trope, but uh, this is especially true when you look at what you would consider a low cost belief. So, an example would be believing in gravity is a high cost belief because if
Yeah.
you don't believe in gravity, you're going to fucking die. But, you know, believing in evolution would be a low cost belief because it doesn't affect your day to day life. Believing in climate change is a low cost belief. Doesn't affect your day to day life. Like it's
Yeah.
if it, whatever consequences there are, you're not going to immediately feel, and you're not going to directly bear the burden of it. So there's a lot of these low cost beliefs that people adopt as just signaling, or it's a way to showcase that you're affiliated with a certain group or a movement. You
Yeah.
gain a lot. So it's low cost from the standpoint of like material consequences, but it's very beneficial from the standpoint of feeling like you belong with a social group.
Yeah.
So the examples I gave, if you're in a town where 100% of people believe in creationism, it might make sense to just go along with it
Yeah.
from a like purely material standpoint. Like why does it matter? Just like shut the fuck up and pretend that you believe the same thing. Your life will be better.
Yeah.
That's probably the best theory that I have.
I think that's it. It's what it's like the bumper sticker, like it costs nothing to be kind. And this is sort of like it costs nothing to hate Israel. And in a lot of communities, that's probably like, yeah, man, that's free. That's free.
Yeah,
Um,
I can understand that for a lot of the people that are, I guess, more detached. But I still don't get after all this time. What I still don't understand is the level of intensity and sustained intensity
yes.
over such a long period of time.
And I mean, this like obviously this can get shot down as whataboutism, but there are horrendous things going on in the world right now that they do not give a shit about. Not like, oh yeah, but we're talking about this right now.
Yeah,
Some,
I know what
yeah,
you mean. The I tried to one thing I've tried was in my conversation with Robert. There's a lot of people that are like sort of kind of Hezbollah stands. Like they
yeah,
won't always say it outright, but they'll be like, it's not that bad. And Hezbollah was al Assad's in Syria. They were his foot soldiers.
yes,
And the Syrian civil war has killed upwards of 600,000 people. Not all of them by Hezbollah, but just take a chunk out of that. I don't even know like what that would be, but those were his main fighting groups. Let's say it was like 100,000. So Hezbollah has killed at least 100,000 Arabs. Who gives a fuck about
yeah,
that? And it's not just why is the outrage missing. It's more why are they even like heralded as
yeah,
like pseudo good guys, while you're simultaneously talking about the supposed genocide happening in Gaza.
yeah.
That's the part that's really confusing to me.
Well, because to your point, they are linked. It's not even like, well, why don't you care what's going on like under the Taliban's rule? Because it's like, well, the Taliban aren't involved in this, so that's a separate conversation. But this isn't a separate conversation. This is, I've picked my side. I am in support of this team, and yeah, okay. I'd like to tell you some things about that team that have nothing to do with Israel. They're not great. They kind of suck. They don't kind of suck. They're absolute monsters, but that's fine. Um, and again, there are legitimate critiques. I have enjoyed listening to and reading Javi Retagur.
Mhm.
because he will kind of throw these gimmies out there of like, here's an example of a criticism you could use against Israel that's not based in eliminationist rhetoric. It's for you, it's free. Like, they exist. Please use them. Please don't use the other things. Don't open the drawer that says monstrous anti-Semitism. Stop pulling things out of that drawer. This desk has all sorts of drawers.
Stop putting heart eye emojis around Yahweh Sinwar and Nasrallah. Like, why those people?
So weird. I can't wait until they somehow find a way to like Putin. They're gonna find a way. And I mean,
the tankies already do.
They already do. Yeah, that's true. Oh, well, yeah, the fucking horse meme. They loved him on that horse. They loved him so much.
Yeah, I don't. There was like streamers like Hassan Piker. He's already like a full-on Russia simp and anti-Israel, and he loves the Houthis. Doesn't care about their slogan.
And I mean, Tibet had it coming. Like, that's a position of his. Yeah, you know, Tibet wasn't as cool as you like. Wow. Okay. Tibet, man, that felt like just catching a stray bullet that didn't need to happen.
So what gives you hope?
What gives me hope is I think these people
we can talk shit about this for
I know.
Like
yes,
years.
I think these assholes are burning. I think they're blowing their load on this. I think they're burning all the credibility that they have. I think that this was a big wake up call for a lot of people. I'll give you an example. Little old ladies in my neighborhood were big fans of the like 50-51 movement and the indivisible activists. And when I pointed out 50-51 is the 50 states, 50 protests one day movement. It's like an anti-Trump. And in some places, I'm sure it's adorable and democratic. And here it's horrible and they're weird radicals. When I pointed out to this very nice old lady, she was like, "Oh, are you going to the protest tomorrow?" And I went, "I don't really protest with those people." And she went, "What do you mean those people?" And I said, well, the group of people that are running the protests have spent like the last year and a half following democratically elected Senator Ron Wyden around, screaming at him that he's a genocidal monster. And this little old lady went, "They've done what?" "I will send you some video, ma'am." And she sent it to all of her friends, and all of her friends went, "This is insane." And that gave me a lot of hope to have people go, "I would never have supported this if I had known that they're horrible assholes." And I think a lot of people are kind of coming out of their shell as like just horrible assholes, which gives me hope because I have felt like the crazy person pointing at the DSA and going, "They suck. They're not as nice as you think they are. They really suck." And people going, "We need evidence." And now I have evidence, so much evidence.
I'm still surprised at just like how sudden, how it feels like it came out of nowhere. Especially on this issue, the fact that the DSA made Israel like a litmus test of their membership. Out of all the topics, out of all the problems they tell us America has, some foreign conflict becomes like kind of the gate to whether or not you can join the rest of the movement. And I don't know what I wrote another piece about just like how much Palestinian protesters have fucked things over for their own cause.
Yes.
We don't see it advance. Like we don't see it gaining ground among people of influence. Like we don't see anyone, politicians being more amenable to it. At least politicians that matter. I'm not talking about like some random town that issues a declaration.
Yeah, people have doubled down, but it hasn't increased. There's just been people that have been painted into a corner and they've just like crossed their arms and gone, "No, I'm not moving." And okay, good luck with that.
What do you think there's going to be a bottom? Will they'll finally learn?
I think they're just going to become so radioactive that the groups that have been supporting them. So in Portland, that's going to be the unions. The unions are going to cut ties with the DSA because they're going to go, "Shit, I don't want to be attacked. That thing is glowing. I don't want to be anywhere near that." And that's where they get their money. I mean, the DSA was broke as hell before the Working Families Party and the unions started injecting money into them. They'll be broke
Mhm.
as hell again. They'll be back. I hope they'll be back to the fringes, and we'll kind of level out something a little more normal looking.
How
I
many are there any DSA members in the city council in Portland?
four.
Four. Wow.
Four of
Okay.
12. 4 of 12, which ridiculous city in America. Oh, yeah, we got 4 of 12. It was a nightmare. It is a nightmare, but they have been, I mean, one of them like threatened the local university recently. If they didn't drop charges against the people who trashed the library, he was going to gather his buddies on the council and vote against any funding for their new arts center. That played well in his crowd. It played really poorly citywide because you've got like, that's Trumpian. You've got an elected official threatening a college. If you don't do what I say, I'm going to cut your funding. But they thought it was a good idea. So this is my hope. Is like, they're really bad at this. They're
Yeah,
really,
but
really bad
I
at it.
also at the same time I don't like after the first month after October 7th when a bunch of people stopped talking to me, I really genuinely earnestly was hoping for okay, they'll come to their senses.
Yeah.
They'll realize that cheering on a mass slaughter and rape at a music festival was not a good thing. That was not a good look. But it hasn't happened, and that's the
No.
part that keeps surprising me.
I
The longevity of it, the endurance of it, I still don't understand it.
I think it's going to be like defund the police. I think the people that were really, really believed in it and promoted it are just going to kind of keep doing that forever. And I think a whole bunch of people are going to get amnesia. They're going to be like, oh, I don't remember calling for. I have more of like a reallocation of funds for some alternatives, is how I remembered me arguing it. Like, I think that's going to be,
Yeah, probably.
yeah,
I,
which
I
is,
mean, especially if you look at like all the Hamas simps. I mean, what do you have to celebrate in
yeah.
terms of Hamas's achievements, or even like the Hezbollah simps? What do they have to celebrate?
Yeah, you've destroyed Iran's entire proxy army. It's gone. Like Iran's
Like
got
what is
nothing.
there? What
Yeah.
is there left to cheer on? And it must I don't know. I'm assuming it fucking sucks to be them when their cause is just falling apart so badly. That's the one thing that is something that does give me hope.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's Mossad's inventiveness.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
uh, that's something I don't know what other tricks they've got cooking up, but that's something I look forward to.
Yeah.
But for me, it definitely has seriously and permanently soured my outlook on this country.
Mm,
In combination with Trump winning the election, I
yeah.
feel more and more alienated from my fellow Americans, which is really sad. Because there's so much that I love about this country, and I love the ideals that it represents. But it just I feel surrounded by people who disagree with me on a very fundamental level, and that feels very destabilizing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's a pretty, again, I love this country, but it's a pretty embarrassing and weird and isolating place to be at the moment at times. And I mean, and then I live in Portland, Oregon, so I can't even get the solace of like, well, at least I'm surrounded by sane people. Like, no, no,
Why are you still
no.
there?
Because I love the people here, and because I do love this stupid city, and I still believe in it. And again, I do have hope. I actually think, this may be really naive. I think these assholes burned off whatever goodwill they still had left. I expect Portland to make a return. I actually do. I think it's going to fall back into more normie liberal hands. That's going to be really boring and fine. They're going to, spend the last 2 years of Trump like resisting, but in like a really safe and brand friendly way. Um, yeah, like I think it is going to bounce back. I was disappointed that they're like the idiots are getting what feels like one last hurrah.
Hmm.
Uh, but
What
I
was
don't
that?
know.
What would be the last hurrah?
This was like they got onto city council.
Okay.
They got elected into positions of power because people still quite hadn't figured out what they were. The good news is them on a big stage. They're not good at hiding who they are. So we just
Yeah.
needed to learn the lesson like one more time in a big way. But I'm going to events. I'm talking to people. I'm liking what I'm hearing on the streets for the most part. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna
I've
stay.
been connecting with like a lot more Jewish groups. I mean, primarily because that's like the best filter for sanity.
Yeah, yeah,
If it tends to filter out exactly the right slice that I'm
yeah.
looking for politically without too much work. And I'm also looking forward to, I guess, I sound so fucking boring. I'm like almost 40, and this is like what the fuck I'm grateful for, like a return to normalcy. I want politics to be boring again.
Yes.
That's happened somewhat in Seattle. Kashama Sawant is gone, and like I think all the council members are just normal people.
Yeah.
They one of them like Joy Hollinsworth. She's a city council member. She's I think uh, yeah, she represents the Central District. She's a black council member, and she
Mhm.
shows up to AJC events, American Jewish Committee events,
Yeah.
and has like nothing and has nothing to be shy about. I think little by little that sends like a big signal that um, you might have some plausible grievances, but we're not going to deal with this shit where we have to do like a prayer acknowledgement to Hamas before we do a meeting or some shit. Like it,
Yeah. It's
that
just
should be. It's. I know it's a lot to ask, but that should be the minimum threshold at this point.
yeah. I think and I mean that's it. It's like is it that stuff has been too crazy for too long or is it that we're turning 40? But I want boring. I mean 2012 this is the joke I tell to all these people. It's like I just want to return to the conservative bastion that was Portland in 2012, like 2008, Republican Portland. And people are like, yeah, I miss super Republican Portland in 2008. Like it was fine. It was a silly, ridiculous, stupid city, but it like mostly functioned and I liked it. And, I'm not asking people to change the world. I'm just like, can we be done with the experiment that we started in 2016? Can we be done with that, please? And I think
how
the answer
Republican was it?
not at all, not even
Okay,
remotely. It was so ridiculously
but you had
granola
no
hippie liberal.
DSA. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were broke. They were like bankrupt. We still had protests in the square every Friday to end the war and free Tibet. Like, it was a legitimately good financial decision to open a store that sold anti-Bush t-shirts. Like when I first moved here, like you could make a lot of money selling. People wanted to wear George Bush's face on their chest as long as it was an insult. It was weird, but like whatever, that's great. It wasn't let's get rid of capitalism within our city. Like we're not going to successfully do that. Every time you try, it hurts people. So stop it. Yeah, no, I think we're ready. I think people miss not knowing who their city councilor is. Like they miss not knowing that person's name, and that was like a really great place to live.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
hopeful.
love going to Portland. Your food scene is amazing. Like the
Yes,
restaurants are great, and I,
yes,
I love the like the kind of the gritty, cheap vibe to it.
yeah,
I've had a lot of fun there.
yeah.
I just never talked to anyone there because I don't know what card I'll draw.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's getting better. I mean, yeah.
Well,
Next
thanks
time
in
you're,
part to work like yours.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Thanks
yeah.
to
Well,
you.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. Like, listen, yeah. Next time you're in, I'll take you through Northwest Portland. The neighborhood's great. It's full of cool people. There'll be like one person in the
Absolutely.
whole neighborhood that thinks that if you're not wearing a mask, you're a Nazi. And like that's fine. We keep them. It's like a nature preserve. We're gonna keep them. We want them to be here. We just don't want them to be like in government. And they're adorable running around and we'll feed them. It's fine. But like it's fine.
Anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, this has been great.
Yeah, this was good. I'm glad we finally got to have a conversation.
Yeah, perfect,
Um,
perfect.
yeah, everyone should subscribe to Max Substack. Uh, it's recalibrating Portland, right?
Recalibrate Portland with Max
Yeah,
Steele. Yeah,
yeah. All right. It's been good
it's been good, man.
talking.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Yassine.
All
All
right.
right,
Take care.
you as well.